Benai, Dekai, Ekai. Hey Sri Lanka, this is Yasmin Yusuf from DecibelLK, and welcome to the very first Decibel podcast. We've been waiting to do this for a while, but here we are in 2024. And shout out to Tabe, which in Sinhala means Kapang. I love this place. It's a brilliant place. It's a Japanese place, and hopefully we get to speak to the owner in a bit. But right now, I have one of Colombo's best creative minds seated next to me. He is all about that creativity. He's a ninja of sorts. And also like AI and a lot of that AI-generated stuff, he got noticed recently because, man, we need to talk about that horror movie you released recently, that AI-generated horror movie, Nuwara Eliya. But before anything, hi! How's it going?
Hi, it's going good. It's a really nice place. It's a gloomy day, which is always good in my books.
Gloomy is always wonderful.
Yeah. Anything for not having the sun just beat down on you. I keep asking people, like, whose idea was it that we live around a star, so close. It's so hot all the time, man. Like,
it's that bugger's idea.
Yeah. No.
God.
We're not good.
God energy. Anyone who knows me.
As much as I'm an atheist, I don't think God had anything to do with it. I think we pretty much brought the global temperature to where it is all by ourselves.
Yeah.
There's a little number we did called global warming, climate change. So
Yeah,
I think we managed that on our own quite well. Yeah.
Hooray to humankind. Hey, not really.
Props
no.
to us.
Yeah. God. So, man, here you are in 2024.
Here I am in 2024. I was born and now I'm here, and in between a lot of weird stuff happened.
Weird stuff,
Yeah.
like.
Just life, man. Just like the pain of existence happened. It's always weird, isn't it? The in between stuff.
Yeah, and that kind of also makes you just gravitate towards weirder stuff that you normalize in life, and then you're like, here.
Yeah, like if these are the cards on the table, if it's all just weird, irregular stuff that constantly tries to derail your life, why not join it? And make stuff that goes along with it.
Happy. Because let's get talking about this all new love for horror that you've had. I think you've always loved horror movies. I think you've always had a sense of like, yeah, I like dark shit, but here you are in 2024 with a short AI generated movie called Nuwara Eliya. But before we talk about that movie, let's get to know where that sense of like love for horror comes from.
I think I need to clarify something before we go ahead though. I wouldn't really call it a movie because it's like a 1 minute 30 second, at the very most I'd call it a short film. But if I'm being generous, I just probably call it a little passion project. Couldn't sleep one night and just decided to make this instead. Yeah. Movie is a bit of a stretch. Maybe one day.
Okay, if you say so. So yeah, this love for horror.
Yeah, I haven't always been into horror. I think I properly got into it the way I am now was after like the age of like 28, because when I was younger, I come from a very conservative religious background, and so horror was a big no-no in the house and in the religious community, so that wasn't something I liked. And also I think when I was younger we didn't have a lot of different kinds of horror. You had your, oh look, the old hag in the haunted house, she's going to jump at you from the dark corner and then live in the recesses of your mind sort of horror. So there wasn't a lot of interesting stories. They have I wouldn't even call 80% of horror movies, I wouldn't even call them horror. I'd call them scary moments in an okay movie.
Yeah, that was most of the 2000s though for me.
Yeah. The thing is, it's don't you think it's really hard to make an extremely convincing horror movie or an extremely convincing funny movie? Like humor and horror, I think, are two of the hardest things to do genuinely, like honestly.
Oh my God, yeah.
No?
Like, especially horror movies, because I grew up watching a lot of horror movies. So for me, I'm so immune to all the scare jumps. Like, everyone else around me is like, ah! And I'm like, so I get what you mean. And I think a lot of that creativity after maybe the Japanese horror movies kind of like dried up, all those stories. Then came a lot of Hollywood stuff, and it kind of was like, yeah, not working for me. But the stuff that came out before was just classic good stuff.
Yeah, well, I think people need to also, when I say people, I mean creative types that do make movies. I think they need to let go of this idea of making a specific genre like horror.
Oh my gosh, stop with the slasher movies. It's so done
no,
and over with.
I think they need to let go of the idea of making it for the masses. Like, because, yeah, you can. But, I mean, different things scare different people. And different stories are interesting also in different ways to different people.
Yeah.
So I think the more mass something like horror gets, it's very hard for it to be convincingly scary, to be honestly scary. Because what's scary is different to different people.
So what scares you though?
I think the stuff I like, to put it shortly, it's fear of the unknown, and I know that's a very common.
Like in a very supernatural sense, or what?
Well, it could be supernatural, it could be paranormal. I tend to gravitate towards the more broadly paranormal stuff than the supernatural stuff, because I'm also like a sci-fi geek. So I'm not to say that it requires sci-fi, but I like the kind of horror movies that take something that is so comfortable or normal or is commonplace and is safe, and then mutating that into like a horrific situation. Or it could even be like, I love these movies. Like A24 recently had a movie called It Only Comes at Night, or It Comes at Night, or something like that. And the entire movie, they never show you what it is that's the big bad in this movie. Is it a monster? Is it a force? Is it some sort of demon? Is it an alien? You have no idea. The entire movie is about 3 people trying to survive inside a little cabin away from this thing, and just the horrific shit that they go through just by having to deal with each other. And that, for me, seeing the horrific things people do to each other sometimes is also a very scary thing. So yeah, so that's the sort of horror that scares me. You could call it Lovecraftian horror, because that's very genre specific though. It's like horror that was inspired by H.P. Lovecraft or Eldritch horror. But yeah, fear of the unknown, things that really trigger your flight or fight response.
Is that what kind of made you go, oh, creature, need to have creature in movie, make it very local and ta-da?
Yeah, so there's a whole reason that thing happens in Nuwara Eliya, and with the sorts of creatures, is because the Nuwara Eliya district in general, it's a very comforting place for me, because I spent most of my childhood in around Hatton and Norton Bridge, and I really love the mountains, and it's always such a place of comfort for me. So whenever I try and make something scary, it's always, like I said, it's taking these things that are comfortable and then seeing, oh, if something really messed up were to happen here, to really disturb that sense of comfort that I have, it would be really messed up, right? So that's why I think I gravitated to doing that shot in Nuwara Eliya, or like inspired by Nuwara Eliya rather.
Man, but just watching that movie made me realize that something like that could actually take place, because Nuwara Eliya, at least for a lot of us city people, it's undiscovered. Like there's so much that could potentially be living in those neck of the woods and that temple thing. So this idea, was it something that you thought would potentially take place?
No, I mean, in all reality, some thin gateway between universes breaking down and giant monsters coming through, it's highly it could happen, but it's highly unlikely. So no, it wasn't really based around something that could happen for real. It's more or less, like I said, it goes back to, if something were to happen, where would it happen, and how would it disturb my level of comfort and that sense of innocence, and things like that. Is that too bougie? Does that sound too?
Kinda, sorta. But also I'm thinking, man, that would have really pulled some kind of hair. Because, that's like your comfort zone, and yet you wanted to play something scary there and just bring it to life and on a screen for people to see.
Yeah.
Did you have a moment where you took a step back right after you were done uploading and then let the world see it, and then you replayed it and you were like, shit?
Yeah, much like Miyazaki, the guy who works at Studio Ghibli, not works at, he basically does all their major animation. He's this old man, and he's had so many successful movies up to this point, right? But every movie he makes, he's just like in this, oh, I'm a piece of shit, I'm no one, my products are useless, this art is useless, none of it makes sense, it's not good. So yeah, I constantly have that mindset of whatever I'm doing is not good enough. This is just how good I could make it with the resources and the patience I have. So yeah, I do replay it a few times, and each time I played, I tend to see a new flaw. But strangely, if it all flows together, if I feel like there's a cogent narrative that works for people, then well, yeah, I'll be okay with it. Doesn't mean I'm like 100% happy with it, but I'll be okay with it.
Okay, so
cynical, such a bummer.
Yeah. But hey, that's you.
What to do?
What to do?
It's
Like,
all that imposter syndrome, man.
That's you. Can't do anything about it.
It's just years of working in advertising.
Is that what it does to you in Sri Lanka? It makes you very cynical, very like...
Oh, without a doubt. Like, I'm ready to like argue anyone about that fact. But anyway, I don't want to dwell on advertising, on this.
Maybe in another chat, another time,
Maybe.
another podcast. But now let's get back to the movie. So, how much of it was AI generated?
Right. So, if the bits of when the monsters actually start appearing, I'm going to call them anomalies, because I don't think I could class them as monsters. They're just messed up things that appear. So once they start appearing in the more clearer images, yeah, that's all AI generated. But there are a few other elements that are brought in. Like, for example, some scenes will have certain foreground elements, and the color grading, the music, the editing, that is all separate. And by the time I'm happy generating a certain scene, it has already taken about, I kid you not, like close to about 30 different tries, because you try and explain to the AI what you want, and it'll try its best, but in your head sometimes it doesn't work as a narrative. Even though to everyone else, for everyone else it could be like, oh, you're nitpicking, it's all looks like the same picture, where you're like, no, there's something about this creature that feels a little too forced, or it's not right, or so yeah. So I would say about 80% of that is AI generation assisted, but with a lot of manual work on top of that. The intro to that is actually just a photograph that I took while in Nuwara Eliya. I mean, I think if you look at it closely, I think it's apparent that most of that camera shake is not real. But then I put that monster in the back. We removed a lot of the mountains, put in new sound. Then we had a friend also, yes.
Shout out to Arshad Iqbal.
Shout out to Arshad. Thanks, because I think that's what made the whole thing convincing, because he did a line in Tamil, and then we put heavy breathy noises. So yeah, it's just, when it comes down to it, it's more technical than art, I think, at a certain point. Yeah.
But why AI though? Didn't you want to like go out and do it old school?
Well, how would one film like a 50-foot tall demigod anomalous creature. I mean, you could always do it with VFX, but I know this sounds very pitiful, but having the softwares and the necessary hardware for that is not something that is something I can have right now or afford right now, and I am more. I'm more focused on getting the narrative out there, than actually having to spend time and design these in 3D, put them in composite then, because I don't have the resources for that. And I could do this with a team, but that's the other problem. I like working by myself.
Okay. Oh, you're a lone wolf kind of guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just a shortage of resources. I would love to, I don't know, have Unreal Engine or Blender, have a machine that could support that, have a whole suite of softwares that could make things like this, because I would love to do it my whole life. I've just got weird ideas running around in my head. But it's so expensive.
I can imagine. Dude, I know softwares and just having hardwares, not having them can be limiting. But did you have to choose AI generated softwares to do what you have to do? Could you not have used some other method? I'm just asking to see if you would or wouldn't.
No, there are probably some other methods. Sorry, there are probably some other methods to. Not probably. There definitely are some other methods to get close to what I was trying to do. Like, for example, I could build a whole composite for each scene on Photoshop from scratch. But honestly, this whole thing began as there was no purpose for it. I just did it because
no purpose, absolutely.
It was just there in my head, and I usually, if you go on my Instagram, you could just see all these sorts of animations and random short films that I make for no reason other than just because it just appears in my head one day, and then I just need to get it out. And there could be other ways of doing it, but for the purpose of not having a purpose, this was just the fastest way. If I have resources, I would love to purposefully design every aspect of it, because that's my background also. My background is in art direction, so I'd love to, but this is the closest I can bring it for doing it by myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because if I did a composite on Photoshop, I'm pretty sure each of those scenes to do properly with all the parallax and the environmental effects, all of that, just waterfalls, trees running, that would take a while for a project I'm just doing for quote unquote shits and giggles.
Yeah, but you know why I'm asking you this, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, AI generated videos, it's just robbery and all that, and I get it.
No, it's so weird, because me and some of my friends were talking about that last night, because there are two camps of, is it intellectual property theft? But then there's another camp that says, well, it only matters what the narrative is and what you want people to feel from that experience. So I can't say I'm really on one camp or the other. Yes, inherently AI art does have a lot of issues, like the stuff it gets trained on. Is it ethical? It's a very gray area, right? Because even on one hand it is, but on the other hand, if you look at any system that produces art, whether it's machine learning or organic, we all pretty much learn the same way. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a lot of flack for this now, but how most of us learn is at the start is by imitating other stuff and then adding our own little mutations to it, and then bringing about something new, which for me is the same as machine learning or being trained on something. I think that isn't the problem, the fact that it's a machine that's being trained and it's producing. I think the problem is that the things it's being trained on might not legally be there. I don't think artists, people have got, people who make these software, I don't think they have got permission from these artists to have those things on there in the beginning. So that is, I think, the main problem right now.
Do you feel bad?
Do I feel bad? That's a great question. I haven't thought of it myself. Well,
You're an artist.
Yeah.
You gotta have a conscience towards these things.
Well, yeah, but I also know a generation, and when I say a whole generation, I know like 3 or 4 people who are really great artists, who have got inspired to do things because they started their journey by trying to imitate what I do. And I started my journey by trying to imitate artists that I really loved at the time, and then, changing things up. And I think that's been true ever since we did, if you go all the way back to Lascaux and, all those cave paintings, I'm pretty sure it was just an evolution and a gradient since then. So do I feel bad? I can only answer that by saying that I wouldn't feel bad if someone would turn the tables on me and all my work was there as a data set to be trained on. Because if it comes down to like a business thing, it's like, now someone else can sell my pictures in my style without my permission. What I say to that is, cool, then go to the, evolve, be a better artist, make the next thing people can't copy until they copy that, then make the next thing people can't copy until they copy that, and just keep going on. Like, why do you want to be in the same place your whole life? But I got to say though, please take all this with a grain of salt, because this is a really wide, really big topic, and I'm talking in like such a reductive sort of way. So
you are being very reluctant.
Yeah. No, reductive. I said like I'm just. It's a huge matter that should be its own discussion, and I'm just making it such a small point. So, but yeah, these are my basic thoughts on it.
Getting back to Nuwara Eliya, is there like a part 2 or part 3? What's the story there?
Well, that if you look at the end tag of that video, there was this thing called the DCA that comes in, the Department of Cryptozoology and Anomalies.
What's the story there? Is there a story there?
Oh, dude. So have you heard of SCP? I know it sounds like these both have just 3 initials, the SCP and DCA. But I really liked the format of that. So what the SCP is, it's this open source online hub basically of, so basically if you're a writer, you can come and you can write an SCP report, and the SCP is basically this fictional foundation.
Okay.
And what they do is they go hunting for like really weird, anomalous, borderline, horrifying things, and their job is to contain it or figure out how to contain it. And they had this vibe where it walks this fine line of what is supernatural, what is horror, but also what does it mean to exist in this material universe, things that really break your mind. And that always inspired me. But I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if they ever, because I'm sorry, I'm just gonna go in circles, because when I was young I used to be into like alien abduction stories a lot, right? So I got this book here once that spoke about the abduction cases here, and I thought,
whoa,
yeah.
Wait, what was the most horrifying thing you've read though that happened in Sri Lanka in terms of alien abductions and stuff?
So I haven't heard anything super horrifying, like, but that is also because, like, for example, if you hear horrifying alien abduction story in the States, you'd have something accompanying to go with it, like a regressional hypnosis session, right? So a lot of that doesn't happen here. I think to a certain point here, people have accepted that weird stuff just happens. Like, there are literally places in the country where people will be like, oh, you want to see weird stuff happen? Come to this mountain at 3 a.m. and you'll see weird lights in the sky. And
then you see tea and cup sauce. It's true, like my mother.
Pack my little India upper and my sambole. Where are the aliens? No, not coming.
No, but like my mother used to say back in the day, like there used to be these flying saucers that used to be like like a teacup and a saucer right at the bottom.
Oh, I don't know about the teacup bit.
He's really
No, that's just a really expensive. That's just a really expensive marketing gimmick by Dankotua or like Lipton or something. Here, please, tea for you. No. Tell your mom that wasn't a flying saucer. It was a very real tea saucer.
My mother actually was her mother's mother. Their imaginations were whack.
But I relate to that because one of the first, I think the first time I heard about UFOs or anything like this was through my mom.
Okay.
And she told me this story about, so for a while we used to be in this little town called Norton Bridge, which is in Hatton. And once again, big, not even a grain of salt, just take a huge, whatever of salt, a huge pound full of salt. Because there was a time back in the 80s where a whole bunch of kids, I think about 11 or 12 kids, disappeared.
What?
Yeah, up in the mountains. And so she would tell me, yeah, one day this strange spoon-shaped thing appeared in the sky, and then the kids disappeared, or like the people gave up the kids to these things. But then that was when I was a kid. When I asked her about it recently, she told me, yeah, I know that's a story I told you, but they have a lot of feuds there, and the kids probably got murdered. So, yeah, that's the problem, man. That's the problem. That's the problem with being interested in this field, because you can never find like first-hand information. You can't find credible. It's so frustrating.
Strangely enough, there is this place in Anuradhapura or Polinawa.
The temple.
Yeah, shout out to Praveen Mohan, who does such a good job in uncovering like supernatural things, and he came to Sri Lanka. And Praveen Mohan had gone to this particular temple, and he had spoken to, I think, a monk or someone there, and they had explained in that video of his what it was, and they even had like printouts, like laminated.
Yeah, the photos, and they sell those photos, right? Yeah.
I don't know about them selling, but I've seen those, and I'm like,
those are very interesting photos. I've seen Praveen Mohan stuff. I like and dislike him. I like him because he uncovers a lot of strange stuff, and he does the extra step of actually going to these places.
Yeah,
which is great. But he has the same problem as if you've seen recently Terrence Howard.
No, I haven't seen his stuff.
Because he starts at a really good, like a solid place of truth with actual facts and good actual places, and then somewhere halfway through he makes this giant leap. It's like, oh, there are lights in the sky, there are strange things happening. Maybe there's a portal, maybe there's a stargate opening, the gods are visiting us, and suddenly you're like, see, for me that it's very hard for me to accept that leap all of a sudden.
He does make sense though, because sometimes when you actually understand what he's trying to say from like a religious point of view, like when you understand the temples, the design of the temple, all that, you probably would come to a conclusion of maybe that's what he's trying to say.
No,
because sometimes those temple breakdowns that he does is so interesting.
Like a temple breakdown, like a MTV Cribs sort of situation.
Like, over here is what it means. Over there, that's what it means. This artwork over here is what it means.
Yeah.
I like that about him. He's probably the only one in the world.
No, I understand. There is a lot of relevance inside that to things that are a part of our culture, our history, to our beliefs. But then my point is, it should be presented as that and not as fact. Because when it comes to lights in the sky, I'm taking this particular thing. When it comes to lights in the sky, all we know is that there are lights in the sky. That's as far as we know about it. We have never interacted with these things. There is no recorded instance of it. So all we can say is there is something weird happening up there. But then to make that leap and say, oh, it's all these like fifth dimensional beings coming through because the pagodas were arranged in the same pattern as Orion's belt, which means nothing, by the way. That's a thing. Like pseudo historians love to spout out, oh, these three.
There must be a connection somewhere, but we'll leave
Listen,
that
man,
for another time.
I can make three random things stick out and be like, yeah, it's in a line with Orion's belt.
Again,
and
like I said, this conversation is for another time.
Much like it's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. And I don't think
but yes, I have to end that by saying I really love and I appreciate that he does the extra legwork, because you have a lot of conspiracy theorists that are armchair theorists.
Yeah.
But he does the extra work, and I really deeply appreciate that. I wish the rest of it was a little more grounded after that. That's it.
Did you answer about the movies?
What movies? Did we have a question about movies?
Yeah, your little short film. Are you gonna have like a part 2 or part 3?
When did we ask that question?
I asked that ages ago, and we went into somewhere else. Now getting back.
Will there be a part? No, definitely be a part. Oh yes, I remember where we sidetracked. We started talking about the DCA. Yes, there will definitely be other things because I want to continue the stories of the DCA. And I do have a lot of stories. Some of them are very interlinked with Sri Lankan culture. Our own mythical creatures, our cryptids, stories of gods and beings visiting us and all of that. But it will be it'll always have a huge twist on it, because in my head it's not happening in the universe that we live in. It's happening in a very similar alternate place, and also I want to try and do it very respectfully, because like if for example I do something about the Kinnara, to someone it could be Kinnara, it would be basically
the Garuda of Sri Lanka. Is that what it is?
No, it's separate to the Garuda. This is it's an East Asian sort of, not a deity, but a mythological creature that is also depicted here, where they have they're supposed beautiful beings they're half human and then half bird, and they're these beautiful creatures. They're associated with music a lot. They play the veena. I don't know why I said it like this. Like a guitar riff. So while to someone like me or to someone else it could be, oh, interesting, a cryptid creature, weird creature, but to someone else it could be, oh, this is very holy and this is very sacred. So that's why I'm placing this in a universe that is not here, because I also want to not ruffle any feathers. Definitely not any Kinnara feathers,
Fun.
Yeah.
So the next little short film.
The next few, there's definitely a few more.
Oh no! When are you gonna be outing them?
Oh, don't ask me that, man.
I just did.
I mean, I do want to do them soon because I do have a lot of stories, but I do have to wait for a moment of inspiration, because like I said, I'm not doing this for any real purpose other than it's in here. I need to get it out. I just have bits and pieces now. I just need to put them together as a narrative, and that's important.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it's not just about putting a few clips together and putting some music. I don't know. I always want people to feel. I want people to feel the same unease that I would feel.
Have you watched Bo Said Kid's newest short horror?
I saw it. I think I saw it about 3 weeks ago.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I showed it to you.
Yes. Yes. You. Yeah, you showed it to me. Yeah. That's some crazy AI work. That's some really high quality AI work. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Bo. He's caught up with a bit of work.
Hey.
Otherwise, he would have been here. But yeah. I wanted to actually have the both of you because I thought it would be interesting to have two proper AI fans.
I think we have two very different loves for horror. I think the kind of horror we like is very different. But then again, I'm only judging from that short because he seems to like more supernatural stuff, where I'm more into the weird paranormal stuff. Yeah.
Cool, man. This was honestly one of those really, really good conversations.
Hey.
And here's to seeing more from you and all that.
Yeah. Hopefully, not hopefully, definitely. I do want to make more, and I hope it inspires someone. I hope we can do something big with it one day. I have no big plans for it. But great, if something could happen, I would love to collaborate with anyone. We already have...
Slide into his DMs!
Because we've already had, I think a friend of ours came on board and said they would love to compose. I'm not going to put on any details yet because I'll wait for... Yeah, so he's been composing for movies and TV series, and it's always really nice to collaborate with people, because you're inherently making something where the subject is about something weird, right? So the more people with weird ideas get together, that just exponentially becomes weird, and I love it. I love that sense of disconnect from having different mediums and genres and perspectives in there. Yeah.
Jayaveva. Jayaveva to the future. Jayaveva to the future.
Jayaveva to the things that keep you awake at night, and I'm not talking about taxes. Yeah.
God,
or
who thinks about
like
taxes?
Jayanti auntie next door, she keeps me up sometimes.
Hi Jayanti, what do you do to keep Rommel up at night?
It's not what you think though. She just yells at her dog the whole night. Can we cut that out?
No, this is staying. I don't know who Jayanti is, but shout out to you, Jayanti.
I don't even know if that's her name. I just call her that because she seems like such a Jayanti.
But you know what? You keep him up at night. That's a skill. That is actually a skill.
Stop yelling at your dogs, man. Like, please.
And that's a wrap.